According to scores of victims, many of whom have mysteriously died or disappeared, the world stage is cast with psychotic victims of trauma-based mind control, with multiple personalities who do exactly what they are told. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino of the U.S. Army's Psychological Operations, who founded the Satanic Temple of Set in 1975 and managed to get it listed in the U.S. Army Chaplain's Handbook, published a paper in 1980, From PSYOP to Mind War, The Psychology of Victory, that suggested targeting the domestic population with ELF waves and any other type of technology available that could control behavior. There is a trauma-based mind control light version for the entire population, known as effective management and crisis capitalization, strategies of using stress and fear to induce regression and make the population dependent on authority figures or comfort objects. Terror management theory has demonstrated that when subjects were shown imagery of death or disasters, they were more likely to vote for authoritative leaders who promised safety and purchase luxury items they didn't need. A frightened population demands more policing, they tolerate more surveillance, and they prefer to stay indoors. When the population is subjected to mass trauma, they fall into a state of collective dissociation, and unpopular policies are pushed through that would not be accepted by a logical, thinking mental state, like the Patriot Act, or a governmental system run by artificial intelligence. Greg Reese reporting.
Hey, Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Haruch HaKodash. Send up honors to our apostles and elders, her great millstone, peace and blessings to the Lord's hopefully elect. So that was just half the clip. The very beginning was going more into study of the Egypts and the Canaanites. And the point of his message there was that Esau Edom has looked up a diligent search to try to understand how he can force the people to comply with authoritative and totalitarianism. And one of his methods is fear, as you heard him say. And the video, I played it a few times, but there's a video in 1958 where this Edomite is talking about the 10 plans that the government has to achieve the New World Order, of the which number 9 and 10 was to hammer in the back of the people's minds that there is still a threat and that we must strive for peace, and everybody must be able to give up their freedom for peace. And this is all happening right now. So the devil uses fear as a tactic to get his sheep to fall in line. That is why, and, because a part of that, he also said that they're deliberately going to increase the inflation. Deliberately, they want the dollar to crash. They want there to be struggle. They want there to be high prices of goods and all that, because they don't want you to be comfortable. They don't want you to have rest. They want you to be stressed out, because, as you heard him say, the more stressed out you are, the more you'll be willing to allow the government to establish something, a system that could promise you some type of relief. This is what this devil has done, went through great lengths to try to figure out how to play God over the people of the planet Earth. The book of Psalm 64, hear my voice, O Yahweh, in my prayer, preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot arrows, even bitter words. They may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in the evil matter. They commune of lying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. So yes, this man, when he set up these 5G towers and they send out radio rays overnight, all these things to disrupt your sleep, to disrupt your body, all that does is lead to stress. Yeah, this devil doesn't rest when it comes to bringing hell upon the people. So his tactics is the use of fear. And that fear is what he's going to use to get the people to subjugate themselves to control. That's what the pandemic was all about. The pandemic was to get people afraid. Because remember, nothing worked. There was no remedy for it. There was no remedy. Because I was in the hospital during the time, and I remember there was a drug called Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine, which is a standard, I guess, drug that's being used today. But what happened was there was a doctor who said that, you know, this drug can help because if we're dealing with this, and that, this drug can help this and that and that. And immediately they took that drug off the shelf. They treated it like a controlled substance, and you couldn't get it. And I was like, see, that should tell you. If they really wanted there to be a remedy, they would bring it forth. But during the pandemic, the goal was that there is no help. There is no remedy. There is nothing that could defeat. The only thing that's going to work is if we fast track to a jab, and people got to take this jab. That was the goal. That's what they wanted to hammer into people's mind. There's nothing you can do. You just have to listen and do what we tell you. So they was taking down all your videos. If you talked about remedies, if you talking about natural herbs, if you spoke against the powers that be, they took your video down. Because their agenda was that there is no solution. Everybody just needs to comply with staying at home, wearing your mask, doing what we tell you to do like sheep. And then when we fast track this jab, then you all just need to take it. This is the only way. That's what this is all about. Their strength, their tactic was fear. Their tactic was fear. And it all makes the more sense that this is why they eventually are going to have to target the Israelites, because we have faith, and faith conquers fear. Only thing the devil is going to have is fear. Everything he's doing now is trying to put people's minds and heart. There's fear. There's always, we still need to destroy this threat. We still need to destroy, Iran, seconds away from nuclear missiles. We need to go to war. We need to, right? That's what they do. To get people to realize there's always something else. We're not done yet. You need to subject yourself to tyranny, to this microchip, to the mark of the beast. This is all to keep you safe. This is all in the name of peace. And we know what the scripture says: when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh. This is their goal. Their goal is fear. They did great diligent search in iniquities to try to figure out how to control the people. And to control the people is going to be by use of fear. So they'll go to great lengths in bio warfare to attack the people, especially the Israelites. They want there to be stress. They want there to be pain. They don't want people to be settled. They don't want people to rest. Because when they go to bring out this microchip, that's what they're going to need. Complete compliance. And they know that if people are afraid, especially of a threat that they can't see, that's what the pandemic was, then you will do whatever they tell you. That's why they're talking about the next pandemic. Why? Because they don't want the people to forget. Even the gates of hell, he said that we don't want the people to forget. Why? Because they want to tell you about the next one that's coming. Yeah. This is their agenda. They have no intentions on letting the people go. They want to establish a police-like state, the image of the beast, which is the New World Order. And to achieve that, they're going to use by means of deception, psyops, staged events, staged crisis actors, all of these things to keep going towards what a police state. ICE is needed. Look at the killings. Look at this. Look at that. We need the National Guard. Look at all this is happening. We need police state. It's just until we get the peace. Just like back then, it was everybody need to stay in the house. It's just 2 weeks to slow the curve. Where that 2 weeks turned into a whole year and longer. The book of Revelation 12, verse 12. Now therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. The woman being the Israelites. Okay. 2 Timothy 1, verse 7. For Yahweh hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. So we don't have the spirit of fear. That is why Esau Edom is going to target the elect in that day, because the elect represents the light, faith. They know that to conquer fear is faith. They know that. That's why they're going to specifically target the believers, because they understand that the only ones that's going to resist or rebel in that day is those who have faith in the Lord. It's like you're like the last light, and they want to engulf the world in darkness. So if they want to engulf the world in darkness, they know they're going to have to go after that light. That's why they're going to take the video down. It's going to be a famine of the word. When they go to roll out this image of the beast, New World Order system, they want to make sure that they have complete control over the media, over the news, so that they can just hammer into people's mind of fear. You all need to be afraid, because that was the goal. Pandemic, the goal was you need to be afraid. And it's funny, because when that whole thing happened, they covered literally all the bases. That's how the devil works. They said you could have it and not even show symptoms, which means you can give it to other people. And I'm like, just like, how convenient. There's no way to avoid this. There's nothing that works. There's no way to avoid it. You can have it and not have symptoms. You like what? Like, I'm looking at it like, nah, bro, I see what you devils are doing. They wanted the people to fear. You gonna fear this. Well, I feel fine. Well, you could still have it. You think about it. You could kill your family members. Okay, people just need to be okay with sitting at home for 2 weeks. It's just to slow the curve. No, what they did, and then why they was doing that, guess what? They set up those 5G towers. They put laws in place to surrender power to the powers where every state gonna have to listen to what they said, because they're getting ready for the next one. And then you know what the devil said? Let me show you.
Dr. Threw, you actually made a comment that no one was forced to have the vaccination. Who made the comment? Was it Dr. Threw?
Senator, I believe I made that comment.
You made that comment? Right. Mm-hmm. You were in Australia during COVID-19. You must have been fully aware that people, nurses, doctors, people to have their jobs, to keep their jobs, were forced to have the vaccination. Now, do you retract your statement that they were not forced?
Senator, no, I believe firmly that nobody was forced to have a vaccine. Mandates or vaccine requirements are determined by governments and health authorities. I believe everybody was offered an opportunity to get a vaccine or not get a vaccine. I don't believe that anybody was forced to take a vaccine.
A lot of Australians will disagree with you on that one.
So that's what the devil does. And in the end, I didn't force you to do anything. That's how he's going to get people when it comes to that chip. In the end, he's going to force you to get it by means that if you don't, you're going to be put to death, or you can't function in society. And if you submit to it, they're going to say, we didn't force you to do anything. See, that's the devil. That's how he gets down. And we done lost so many channels during that period of time. Why? Just for teaching the Bible and using the scriptures for comfort during a time of what they would call uncertainty. They actually took our channel down because they said, you're spreading misinformation. Why? Because they want you afraid. They didn't want people to believe in the Lord. They wanted people afraid. And what better threat than an invisible threat that you can't see, which can kill you whether you know it or not, which you can have whether you know it or not. You know, all that was complete bullshit. If they actually wanted there to be a remedy, if they wanted there to people to function with their lives, etc., they would allow. That's why we tell you all that thing was orchestrated. That wasn't a natural occurring pandemic. That's why it's called the pandemic. That was orchestrated. And they're working on the next one. Sirach 12, verse 13, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such come nigh wild beasts? Okay? So if you trust this devil and you did what he said and you're going to keep trusting him, then who's going to pity you? Because in the end, it's going to be, well, you should have knew better. Okay? How's that for you? In the end of all that, the devil said, we didn't force you guys to do anything. We mandates, requirements, but we didn't force anybody to do, to do anything, But that's how the devil get down. So just like when he go to roll out that chip, people gonna take it willingly, and some most unwillingly. If you don't take it, you're gonna be put to death. So people gonna take it. They ain't gonna say, I ain't forced you anything. I gave you an opportunity to choose whether you're gonna take it or not. So the point is, the devil uses fear as a tactic to have the people fall in line to do what he tells them to do. And it's the faith that we have that hopefully elect, which is his number one enemy when he goes to roll out this image of the beast, because he's going to do it by means of deception and fear. And without those, who stands in the way of that? The prophets, the believers. We stand in the way, and we say, no. Faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. They're like, no, we don't want that. We need the people afraid. Fear is a strong tool. The devil knows that. Fear is a strong tool. Okay, you can risk losing everything in your life if you don't follow what we tell you to do. And then only afterwards, in the end, I didn't force you to do anything. That's why they're planning for the next one. Ephesians 6:10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yahweh, that ye may be able to stand against the devil, against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of Yahweh, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Right? So you see, this is a spiritual warfare. It's a warfare on the mind. It's a warfare on the spirit. You got fear and you got faith. And your fear and faith is supposed to be in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. But the devil is coming to put your fear and faith in him so that he can control you forever. It goes on. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahweh. So this is the armor you have to take up. Not get a bunch of real estate, not have bunkers set up, money, all that. You can have all that, but this is what's going to get you through the times that we're about to come in. You all think this devil sleeps. He don't rest. They write books, dude. They talk to each other. Studies found that if more people afraid enough, they'll do exactly what you tell them. So they methodically and meticulously execute their plans to get the people to fall in line like sheep. That's why scripture says, be sober, for your devil is a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And the scripture says, Micah 2, because he has the power to do it. That's why he's doing it, because he has the power to do it. So yeah, man, fear is going to be his number one tool, fear and deception, to bring about control, that microchip. And that faith is going to be the only thing standing in the way, which is why they're going to target the believers specifically to push, to drown them out so that the world can just be completely engulfed with darkness, and the people will move completely off of fear to subject themselves to the beast system. So that means the famine of the word is going to have to come to pass before this devil rolls out his agenda. So just keep your eyes peeled. Shalom.